So,
To kind of just set the stage before Cyrus jumps in, I think people probably know, but Cyrus and I both work for Farallon Geographics and work on arches amongst other things. But so Cyrus has been the person on the arches amongst the arches contributors who has been, I think, most directly involved in Arch's releases. And so what we're talking about right now is a release to the core Arch's platform, and that's what we're going to be. What the features that we're discussing are going to be a part of that latest release, and that's what Cyrus is going to talk about. Sorry, Cyrus.
oh no, that's I'm glad you mentioned that. I should also Alexei is probably going to join us a little bit as well to talk about accessibility and changes to the file list data type, and he's also with Farallon. So in this latest release, in addition to some of the features that we're going to show you today, there have also been quite a lot of bug fixes and some significant performance improvements. The performance improvements have largely been around the bulk editor, but they do apply to other parts of the application as well. There's been a performance improvement in indexing and then in saving resource relationship records. And then a couple other changes that we've made have been upgrading Django to the latest version. So this version of Arches is more secure, and developers can take advantage of new features in the latest version of Django, as well as support for Python 3.11. And this upgrade to support Python 3.11 is really a big deal, because Python 3.11 has a number of performance improvements in it. It's between 30 to 60, in some cases 60%, depending on what operation you're doing, faster than previous versions of Python. So you can use Python 3.8 with Arches 7.5, but are strongly encouraged to upgrade to 3.11 if that's possible for your instance. So I'm gonna demo today the addition of the tile Excel format to the bulk importer, as well as the branch and tile Excel format for the exporters in the bulk data manager, and then a change that we've made to workflows to display information about incomplete workflows. And Rob is going to talk a bit about a really cool feature, which is Arches applications. And then Alexei will talk about some of the changes that we've made to accessibility and the file list data type to support image-only configuration. So, oops. So let's take a look first at the bulk data manager. Let's see. And I'm going to do a search for place. I have three instances of the place model, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete them from the. Well, first I'm going to export them using the new tile Excel export tool in the bulk data manager. And then I'm going to delete them from the system and reload them. So open up the bulk data manager, and we have this new export tab, and we can go there and open up the exporter. And just to, let's see here. Oh. So I'm going to pick the place model, the instances that I want to export, and I can choose whether I want my concepts to be exported as UUIDs or whether I want the labels exported. And I'll name my file and then go ahead and start the export. And because it's only 3 instances, it's very quick. And I get a short summary about what has been exported, the model, the number, and any other file. So if I had a node with the file list data type and I had files, file tiles, and associated files, then those would get exported as well. I can go ahead and download my zip file, which would contain the resource data as well as any ancillary files. And that up, and I get a zip file, which the importer will take either the zip or the Excel file. But I'll just open this up so you can take a look at it. So if you're not familiar with the tile Excel data type, basically each worksheet in a tile Excel file represents a different card. And so I only have data for the name and the location and then a statement. And these are all related across the resource instance ID here. And if there were child tiles, they would have a reference to their parents with the parent tile ID here. And that's something that's really powerful about this data type, is that it supports any graph shape, any depth or cardinality. So it's very flexible in a way. So now I'll go back to the bulk data manager, and I will go to the edit tab. And now I'm going to go ahead and delete all of the instances of place. And so I'll go over to delete resources by resource model. I'll pick my resource model. A preview will show me how many instances I'm going to delete. If I wanted to, I could also delete tiles or delete resources by search URL. So only delete the instances that are captured by a search. But in this case, I'm going to delete all instances of the place model. So let's start that. And now I can go, if I want, to the edit log and get confirmation that these instances have been deleted. And I can also, go back to search. And it's taking a little while to load here. And search on the place model. And as you'd expect, I don't have any place instances. So now I can go back to the bulk data manager. And I can go to, let's see, I want to go to, well, this is the tile, so we'll walk through it again. So the import tile Excel module. And I can select my file. I get a summary of what I'm importing and details about the load, which tiles got loaded, whether there were any validation errors. And now I can go back to search. And here is my data reloaded. Now, another interesting feature that we've added in the bulk loader is the ability to edit data that's being loaded. So if I wanted to come back to my file, and I'll just open up with Office here. And let's see, let me go to the name of place card and look at those tiles. And I have a list of strings here, and if I wanted to make a change, so we'll just put Davis in all caps here and save that change. Now I can go back to my bulk loader. Oops. And import tile Excel again, select my file that I just edited, and reload the same file. And what will happen is when the data gets loaded, it will check whether a tile needs to be updated or not and update it. Otherwise, it just remains in place. And so I can go back to search again and reload my, reperform my search for places. And you can see that now um, the change that I made in the Excel document is expressed in the search results. So this is a really great way to make, if you needed to make a lot of edits to a lot of data, you just need to reformat a string and make changes to a lot of instances, then you can do that pretty efficiently now in the bulk data loader. So that in addition to the oops, in addition to the tile Excel exporter, there's also the branch Excel exporter, and just like the tile Excel exporter, it works very similarly. The two formats are similar in that they both support any graph shape, any depth or cardinality. However, tile Excel is probably better suited toward machine readability, where branch Excel tends to be more human readable. So which format you use depends sort of on how you're managing the data. And then we already had in 7.4 an importer for branch Excel, so it's really the tile Excel importer that's new. And so with that, let me talk a little bit about workflows and the new feature that we've added to workflows is the ability to see which workflows are incomplete. So I'm going to go ahead and start this update project collection workflow. And previously, you could only work on one workflow at a time. You couldn't have two different workflows that you're working on in separate tabs. Otherwise, it would close out if you started with one workflow, opened up another tab, then you couldn't proceed with the previous workflow. So now we've made changes that allow you to work on different workflows simultaneously, which might make a lot of sense if you are creating instances that are related to other instances you needed for a second workflow. You might want to start one and then switch to another and make some changes and move back. But the big change is that we allow you to see which ones are incomplete, and we store information about which workflows have been completed and which have not. So if I just start the workflow and make a change, and I save a couple steps, but I do not go and commit my changes by clicking Save and Complete and decide that I want to start another workflow, then I'll get an indication that my workflow is incomplete. So I can go click this link and go back to this workflow and then decide whether I want to commit my changes or to delete any changes that I've made so far. So this workflow that I showed you is in AFS, and AFS is an example of what we've done recently in Arches, which are Arches applications. So I'm actually going to hand it over to Rob to talk a little bit about that. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Stop sharing.
Sorry. So this is a little bit more, I think, of a technical conversation. And so I'm going to try to keep this overview kind of high level if I can. And I'm going to use an example to try to be instructive of what I'm talking about here. But really, this comes down to like a development workflow that that we've been working on, mostly, you know, inspired by some of the rough edges around our work on Arches for Science, which is an Arches project that started life at the Getty, but has been sort of re-implemented by other organizations, and are looking forward to the future of the RDM, and working on that. And a thing that has recurred is the need to model what we previously conceived of as an Arches package, and related functionality as applications that could be installed into an existing Arches project, rather than as part of the Arches project themselves. And one thing that this really enables for the development team is for us to maintain Arches applications outside of core Arches, and version them and have their own, have defined their own migrations for data, and even their own interfaces that could be a part of Arches, like widgets or plugins, but could also be completely separate from Arches. And I think that's really part of the power that I wanted to highlight here. So this example, what we're looking at here, really what we should be looking at is this. So this is just Arches running a project that Farallon we built for the Port of San Francisco. And if I sign in here, we'll be able to see, that there's some information. This is like a custom interface that they've defined, but they have some lease application data that they're tracking in this. This isn't real business data. This is all just stuff that they're stubbing out. These are just Arches. These are all just based on Arches models. So I can bring up quickly some of these models. For instance, property lease applications. So this is a model that represents lease applications. It's not really a cultural heritage use case, but you can see it looks quite a bit like probably Arches models that you've seen. And so these are the actual models into which we're storing business data. But and Arches is being used internally by their staff, using the regular Arches interfaces that ship with Arches, but also this custom interface that was built for their internal staff to interact with these data based on their business requirements. But the actual data themselves are submitted by folks outside who are submitting applications. And this gets a little complicated because the word application has been overloaded now. These, in this sense, applications are not like Arches applications. They're like college applications. Someone is applying for a lease. So that person is outside of their actual organization, and they want to come in here, and they would be logging in using these credentials, but they want to come in here and they want to submit an application. So as you can see, this is a completely separate application in the Arches application sense. It's a completely separate experience from the end user's perspective. This runs on a completely different host. It's running on this host here. This is just a development host that we stood up. And Arches itself, which is over here, is running on this host here, which is a different host. So to the end user, these feel like completely distinct experiences. But they are fundamentally, when I come in here and I start to create and submit an application, what I'm doing is I'm populating data into those Arches resource models that we looked at over here. So there's a few things that are kind of opened up here conceptually, and really this is not so much a feature of Arches, if I'm being honest. This is more a slightly different approach in terms of our development practices and workflows, really taking advantage of the concept of applications in Django. But it's allowed us to define and version applications, which are a set of features, which could be, you know, separate front ends like I showed, or they could be embedded UIs like I'm showing here. And they also will likely include resource models. Ship those into the Python package index, which is where you actually store Python modules, and where you actually install Python, or it's the place from which you install Python modules when you use pip, for instance. So again, this is a bit technical, but it's the repository for Python software. So we'll be able to ship versioned applications that will complement Arches at specific versions. So like Arches for Science version X, right? And you could just install that and get all of the things that I described. And then there's this added sort of advantage, which again is just a sort of a distinction in terms of how we're doing development practices here, but around having a separate front end, like what you might call a micro front end. So that's what I'm showing here in my IDE. Running here is the front end to build for this application that you're seeing on the right, and it's completely distinct build from the Arches build that creates this application. So that frees you up in a lot of ways, which I'm not going to necessarily belabor here unless people are interested and have questions. But I think the salient point is that you can really divide the experience, and that's pretty important for a lot of business users. Arches in its current state is sort of such a broad and generic, I guess you could say, way of interacting with these data, because it's premised on the idea of the models being designed inside of Arches. And a separate experience can give a business user something that is very custom tailored to the business process that they're doing. So in this example, I want to apply for a lease, right? I don't really care about how the data are modeled or Arches or even searching for data as such. I just want to see, you know, my applications, complete them, submit them, and follow up on them. So it's a very specific business process that I want to do, and this kind of approach, I think, is in a lot of respects a better fit for that. And I think it also, in some ways, might make maintenance of those kinds of things over time easier, because this is so decoupled from Arches. It's really only reliant. The integration point between this application and Arches are some views that I generated using the relational view functions. I can get into that if people are interested, but these are typically used for ETL. In this case, these are actually how we do the data access for this application. So unless you change the models, these views should continue to work. And maybe across upgrades, there might need to be some attention to either regenerating the views or something along those lines. But the portability of this application across Arch's versions, I think, is going to be a lot easier than, say, the portability of something even that's built into Arches, like this plugin that we're looking at here. So there's some maintenance considerations or potential benefits to decoupling things from Arches where that makes sense. So again, I know that was technical, and hopefully I did not miss the mark too much, but I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have. And if not, I don't know, Cyrus, who do I hand it off to now?
Maybe we should
go from here.
Give Alexei a chance to talk about the image configs on the file data type and accessibility. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'd be happy to do that. Let's see here. All right. So yeah, for accessibility, we did a lot of work to Arches to support accessibility. And what that generally means is that as a user navigates the site with the speech, reader in their computer, it will read through the UI in a natural way. And none of that really worked in Arches prior to 7.5. And so there's a great push to make that happen. And so that's been done. And one of the things that also had to be done was updating how images are read out. So it ordinarily, what happened originally was that users would navigate to, let's say, a report, they get to the image, and before this improvement, what would be read out would be the name of the file that the person had uploaded. And as you all know, when you take screenshots and other things like that, the file name is usually actually not very representative of what the actual image is. And so that was a thing that threw a red flag when we were doing the accessibility work. So what we did was add the ability to add a appropriate alternative text, which is what that's used for and what is read out by the screen readers, and allow a user to actually add that information in. So I'm going to do that here. Sorry, I just did that quite quickly. This is a file list. I'm in the editor, and this is a file list. So this is where you traditionally uploaded files. Nothing here has changed really. You select your file as you would ordinarily. I'm going to add this file here. And now you'll see, maybe I should make my screen a little narrower here, that there is the ability to add alternative text. So I can say this is a picture of Cinque Terre in Italy. This text will show up and will be read out as the alternate text. You actually won't see this. There is then the additional option of adding additional metadata around the file as well, which is visible. So I can say Cinque Terre and some attribution. That would be me. I took this picture, and description. I'm just going to say full description. I don't know. And I just spelled that right. That's okay. So I upload the file as you would ordinarily, again, adding your metadata. And when you go to the report now, you'll see that the title and attribution and description are now here. The alt text usually is not visible on the web, but the screen reader will now pick that up. And I'll get really geeky and I'll go right into the code here and I'll inspect this thing. And let's see here. If you can see this here, here's the alt text. It says alt right here, picture of Cinque Terre in Italy. And so the screen reader will pick that up and then announce that as what this thing is. And so that was kind of a big improvement as far as accessibility was concerned, and allow us to pass some of our core accessibility requirements for files. So that was, I think, a big improvement. So that's accessibility, or that's that little bit of accessibility. There was some other work, totally unrelated, around the bulk data manager. I think Cyrus wanted me to talk about briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Alexei. Yeah,
yeah. What was added in the bulk data manager is the ability to add or edit in bulk now. So these 3 items were added as part of the effort to allow for bulk editing of data. And you can see there's one is the ability to change case, bulk changing case here, replacing text or removing white space. Let's see, I'm going to choose replace text. So what you're presented with initially, and they're all really similar. I mean, if you start here, it's essentially the same UI for all of these things. They all modify strings and string data only, really, and allow you to bulk edit strings. So that's what these things do. And again, like I said, they're all very similar as far as the UI is concerned. But they all have in common the ability to essentially define a search URL. What this will do is essentially limit what you can edit. So if you go to search and you define a search here, you can save this URL, you can come up here, you can paste it in, and it defines the world in which your edits will be applied. That doesn't mean that every item that was a hit in your search will be edited. It just means you're not going to edit anything that isn't in that list. I'm just going to leave it blank for now. And then what you can do is then select your model you want to edit. You have to select the node, so the string essentially that you're going to edit in this model. I'm going to edit the name. You pick your language. You're going to, in this case, I'm doing a replace text, so I'm going to replace the text taco, because that's what I have in my data for test data. And then I have some options here that I can choose. If I can do case insensitive or just search for the whole word only. I'll preview. Oh, there's nothing to preview. If I go back, I'm like, oh, there's definitely the word tacos in here. But it is set to case insensitive, or it's set to case sensitivity. So if I make it case insensitive now, here are the values that it's going to pick up to edit. And you can see it gives you a preview, just the first 5 items right now that it picks up. It'll preview down here below. You can see the before was this name, Taco Cards 1. It makes no sense. And then I'm going to change it to be Burrito Cards 1. And so it's just switching the word taco for burrito. And if I start this now, I'm going to disappoint you all because something's going on with my system, and it's my celery worker is not working right. It's not cooperating, so it's not happy with me. But if I hit start here, it's going to come and show you the status of that operation that it's running. And it starts here. It gives you a little summary of what's going on. I'm editing the separate cards field model. I'm changing the name of the field, which in this case is confusingly named name-string. That is actual name of my field. It doesn't have anything to do with it as a string. It's just that's the way I named my model. I'm changing the English language of that. I'm doing a replace. I'm changing taco to burrito, and then it gives you some metadata about how many resources were updated once this completes, which it won't. I'm just telling you that right now. Sorry to disappoint. And then some specific details about what's going on. So that's this little thing, and this will expand down and it'll show you kind of once it runs through the whole process. what the status of that process was. But eventually it'll finish and it'll turn green like you see here. It's completed. And if I click on this, you can see, oh, this is completed. So sorry, backing up here. This is a list of all the tasks that have been run, all the edit tasks, or any task for that matter, that's been run on this instance that I have running here locally. They run asynchronously. That means multiple people can edit these things at the same time. These things can take a while to run if you're editing a lot of data. As you can imagine, they have to go through, and if you have millions of records, they're going to go through all those records and potentially edit all of them or a subset of them. Right now, we're limited to actually 5,000 records at a time, just for safety's sake, which can be changed, but that's what it defaults with. But the edit processes can take a while. And so they are asynchronous. So you can have multiple things going on at the same time and have multiple editors editing parts of the data at the same time. They will queue up and they will be run and then finish as they finish. As you can see here, this one finished. This is a replace text thing. In fact, same model, same name, or same string. I changed separate to taco. Okay, so that's where that happened. And you can see here, it completed it. It shows me a little bit of the details of what's happening. Prepare to load, it staged your tiles. This is just some detail if you need to figure out what's going on or where the status of that process is. Some, again, metadata about when the edit started and when it was indexed, and then how many resources and how many tiles were updated. And critically, it allows you to kind of view in the edit log here. You can click on this and we can go to the edit log and we can actually view the 2 items are edited. And then you can also view the reports or view the editor link from here. This is just the standard recent edits, edit history page, just filtered by that task that we just did. So that's the general rundown on the editor. Like I said, the other edit tasks are just the same thing here. This is changing the case. So you can capitalize some words or you can lowercase or uppercase them. That's that operation. Or you can remove white space, that if you have leading and trailing white space in your data, you basically do data cleaning exercises right here. Again, same interface. And let me see, am I missing anything? I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's a kind of a very brief and very quick summary of kind of the bulk editing operations that were added to the bulk data manager.